Welcome to the latest in the DE2's demo series following the completion of sprints 5 and 6. In these two sprints we've worked on a number of new areas and I shall now demo the key highlights. I'll start with a demo of permissions and also sharing document versions between other users from different organisations. So if I log on as a PCO user and when I create a new bill, the default permissions set will be that any other user in the same organisation as me will have read and write access to this bill. Now, if I log on as another PCO user, I will be able to find that bill on my dashboard. But if I were to log on as a Scottish Parliament user, I would not be able to see that bill. And that's because projects inherit their permissions from the associated documents within them. When Council are ready to share a copy of the bill with the Scottish Parliament, they can do so by clicking on the Share button. So if I return to the project page, click on the Share button, the system knows that I work PCO, in which case the only other organisation at its current stage is the Scottish Parliament. So it asks me if I want to share this version of the Scottish Parliament. So if I click Share, what it will do is create a significant version on the right-hand side, which will be a read-only version for users in PCO. And if I log back on as the Scottish Parliament user, if I do a search now, there it is. I can now open up the project, and the only document I can see is the significant version. I cannot see the working versions that were visible to the PCO user. Now I shall demo how fragment locking works. This is where more than one user can edit the same document at the same time. So if I just open up as a PCO user to edit my document here, as soon as I start editing the document, you'll see grey padlocks appearing. So if I add a new subsection, you'll see on the structure view against section 2 grey padlock. And if I hover the mouse cursor over the padlock, it tells me that I've got the lock and how long I've had the lock since. If I now log on as another user in the PCO and open the same bill, this is what it looks like when another user is editing the same bill. Scroll down, section 2 is greyed out, letting you know that another user is editing that document, has a lock on it. And if I hover over the padlock, it tells me that it's been locked by another PCO user and how long they've had the lock for. Now, the other user isn't editing the whole document, so that means that I can currently edit another provision which isn't locked. So if I add some text here, you will see that a grey lock has appeared, showing you that the system has locked this fragment to me and allowing me to edit the document at the same time. If I save my changes, the system's going to release my lock on that fragment. So you see it's disappeared, so that if I return now to the other user, who is the other PCO user editing this document, if I try to edit provision 3, I start typing, the system's going to try and get a lock. It works out that there isn't a lock on this provision, but there have been changes. It's out of date. So I click OK to refresh. It brings in the new changes from the other user, and it then locks that provision to me so that I can add further text. Now let me explain a little bit about autosave. So we've implemented autosave. As I start editing a document, the system will autosave my changes every 2 minutes in a snapshot version, which is only visible to me. This snapshot version will be deleted as soon as I save my changes. So if I go to the project, and if I click, you'll see there's an autosave snapshot, and that's basically my backup, which is auto-saving in the background as I edit. Now if I save those changes, return, you'll see that my autosave backup has been removed. Now let me show you how automatic cross-reference identification and tagging works. So in this example, I have already created a bill with some provisions, and now I'll add some example cross-references. So if I was to add the text here, subsection 1 of section 3, I click on the xref button. It will search through my text and work out what could be an xref, and then it will find the target cross-reference and tag it with the appropriate link. Additionally, I can show you some more examples. So it works further down, paragraphs A to C. I click xref, identify paragraphs A to C within that provision. I could add more. Let's add it more in this. In part 1, what should I say? So it's identified part 1. So the intention is, when adding cross-references to a provision, rather than manually creating the link in the background to the target provision, the system can automatically detect them in my text through pattern recognition, and it will additionally create a tag back to the target provision. We still have further work to do, including the automatic updates of these cross-references when the provisions move around, and also to allow users to create manual cross-references where the pattern recognition can't identify a particular format of cross-reference. These new features are going to be worked on in the next sprint. Next, I'll show you quoted structures. Very simply, I can insert a quoted structure, and before when it's inserted, I just need to specify some basic information. So I use the keyboard shortcut. Opens up a modal. You can select the document type, the target document, and we'll be expanding the list here as we add more document types to the application. You select the starting element on the list of all possible choices. The indent level serves two purposes in this implementation. So to be used if the quoted structure is itself within a quoted structure in the target document, and as such would apply a global indent to the quoted structure as a whole. So if it was in one quoted structure, the idea is that you'd select one. But also where the starting element's indentation is derived from its parent or its ancestry. So we call these elements variable indent elements. And for simplicity, we've assigned a default indent for them when inserted into a quoted structure as the starting element. For example, closing words could apply to subsection, paragraph, subparagraph, etc. The default indentation applied to closing words is as if it had been inserted at the end of a list of paragraphs within a subsection. So if you're intending it to be inserted at the end of a list of subparagraphs in a paragraph, for example, you'd need to add one additional indent level to get the correct indent. We've also got the start and end quote. You can select none if, for example, the quote is starting in the line immediately before the quoted structure. And following text. So in Scotland, the most common convention would be to put a full stop at the end. So I'll use a section in this example. So it'll insert a quoted structure, defaults to 1, but you can overwrite it because most of the time it's not going to be 1. It's possible to change the quoted structure properties after you've inserted the quoted structure by right-clicking on your quoted structure and selecting Update Quoted Structure Properties. So, for example, if I thought I needed to change the indentation, I could easily do it from here, and that moves the whole indentation to the quoted structure over by 1. As you start typing in the quoted structure, you can continue to use the content completion assistant, the insert menu, as you are drafting in your quoted structure. But sometimes the content completion system won't show the provision that you need to use, as the starting provision might not be enough information for the system to populate the valid element list in the content completion assistant. So an example could be the insertion of a chapter after a section. So in this case, I've inserted a section, and the next thing I want to do is insert a chapter. Now, because I haven't got a chapter in the ancestry of this section, the system won't give me the option of a chapter. It doesn't consider that to be a valid element that comes after this one. So to get around that limitation, you would right click, choose quoted structure, and this time insert adjacent quoted structure. And now I can choose chapter in this example. I won't need a starting quote, but I'll keep the end one. There I've added a chapter. The system is treating them as the same insertion, even though we've got around it by inserting back-to-back quoted structures. So I can continue editing as I need to. So I just need to change that number, and away we go. Now I will demo wrapping lower level provisions with higher level grouping provisions. So a simple example would be one or more sections in a bill that you might want to wrap within a part. So quite simply to do that, select the sections that you want to wrap, right click and select surround with. The system will present you with some valid options. I'll use a part. You can then further wrap those provisions within the part by, for example, let's do chapter for this one, and select these two and wrap these in another chapter. Finally, let me show you how renumbering works. As you add and move provisions around, their numbers can quickly get out of sync. So you would highlight the provision that you want to renumber and click on the renumber button. That will renumber the provisions that you had highlighted into the correct sequence, 1 to 5 in this case. Now it might be sometimes you don't want a number to be renumbered. You have the option to lock a number. So you right click and select lock number, and what that will do is this will be ignored in a renumber, and any following sibling elements will be renumbered in the same format of the previous number, which in this case is the lock number. So I'll show you what that looks like. So select the section, use the breadcrumb this time, click on renumber. So it's renumbered the provisions. It's not changed 3A, but it's renumbered what was 5 and 6 to 3B, 3C according to the pattern. And that brings me to the end of my demo of highlights from sprints 5 and 6. I hope you have enjoyed it.